Welcome to the Practicing Accountant Podcast, your go-to resource for transforming your accounting practice. This podcast is for accountants ready to take control of their business and build their ideal practice by mastering the essentials, setting the right prices, defining a powerful niche, and selling with ease. We'll dive into strategies that boost profits, attract your ideal clients, elevate your services, and help you choose the most effective pricing models. We are champions for efficiency, value, and intentionality, and adversaries of people-pleasing, bad clients, and complacency. We provide actionable strategies to help you break the hamster wheel of typical accounting work. The mission of the Practicing Accountant Podcast is simple: to enhance your experience as an entrepreneurial accountant and help you turn neglected practices into a thriving business. So, if you're ready to level up your practice, this podcast is for you. Tune in and let's get to work. Like, I don't mind cold, like when it's like cloudy and snowy out. But when there's not a cloud in the sky and it's, 20 degrees, like that sucks.
Yep.
Because your mind says, ooh, look at the pretty day outside. I want to go out there and play in it and play basketball and go running and go on a nice walk. And then you step outside and you're like, screw this. This is stupid. I'm going back in. And you can't be like really lazy in it either because you can't go outside. So you kind of want to feel comfortable in your own house. But when it looks nice outside, you can't get into that fireplace, book, blanket, couch without having that guilt of I should be productive.
I 100% agree.
Yeah,
I'm over it. This time of year
it gets hard now, right?
For the birds. Yeah.
But for all of our accounting friends out there, it is convenient that busy season just happens to fall in the crappiest months of the year so that they are not quite as inclined to venture out into the nature walks and things that hikes and paddleboarding or whatever they like to do.
That is true.
So they're incentivized by weather through season to be indoors, cranking away work and getting their utilization up and their realization tight and doing well for their firms or themselves.
Yep. Tis the season.
Tis the season. Tis the season to be indoors. I wanted to start today with a list, and maybe it's something we can throw into the notes on the podcast. But I have a list of, I don't know, maybe 20 things here that you can work on if you're a people pleaser. So, one of the things that you and I have identified, one of the 6 things that we've identified that accountants tend to really need some work on. The number 1 in our book is people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're people pleasers, they say yes to things they shouldn't say yes to. They do work they shouldn't do. They pretend to know things they don't. They commit to or overcommit to doing things and spend much of their time on the weekends doing things they shouldn't have said yes to begin with.
Right.
So if we can just manage that people pleaser a little bit better, we might have a better chance of improving the experience of accounting, which is what I am purposeful in trying to do. So onto the list. Stop over explaining your pricing. So you don't have to justify your fees and feel like you're trying to convince your clients of value. Don't be apologetic or use differential language. Things like just checking in and if that's okay with you, I'd like to charge you for those 20 hours that I did, if that's okay. Downplaying your value, making the work seem negotiable. Like, well, we can probably do this for this amount or something instead of this is what it is. Just generally people pleasing. So you prioritize being liked over being honest. Which leads to another one that, stop wanting to be liked so much. Mm-hmm. I had a conversation with a money coach the other day, just talking about what she does. And she brought up a good point. I think that accountants need to listen to, and that I think accountants, they want to feel that they're being paid, that they're worthy of what they're being paid and deserving of what they're being paid. And if you remove those two things, like it's not about being worthy, it's not about being deserving, it's about claiming what is yours. It's about taking what you are providing to the world and not trying to be deserving or worthy. Moving on. Stop talking about, whether you're available or not, and seeming desperate. What else? Set boundaries. That's a pretty clear one.
Mm-hmm.
Stop saying yes to unreasonable requests, like doing something you've never done before or getting something done sooner than you could have. Stop not charging. So if you've got scope creep and you're not billing for things you're doing for your clients, stop it.
Yep.
If you're providing value for them that you're not being compensated for, stop it. Stop being over accommodating with your scheduling. Stop being so available to your clients. Stop adding unrequested services. Stop throwing in a lot of extra stuff. Don't be afraid to raise your prices. Now, who in their right mind hasn't raised their prices in this economy and what we're experiencing right now as a society?
I have a new rule around that, by the way. Every time Netflix raises prices, I'm going to raise my prices.
Ooh, that's a good rule. I like that. They just did
Netflix.
that too, didn't they?
Yeah, Netflix index. That's what I'm going to call it.
Netflix index. That's good. How do you price? Well, it depends on what Netflix is doing.
That's right.
Keep going. Stop shying away from hard truths. Stop avoiding conflict. Stop offering discounts before you're even asked to do it. Like, don't say, you know what, I normally do this for $600, but for you, I'm going to do it for $500 before they even, asked for that price. Like, don't give them that.
Yep.
Stop being so worried about proving your worth. Don't provide services unsolicited. Don't go around throwing around great advice to folks that you're not being compensated for. Don't overshare your personal shit. Like, you don't have to go into, so much about you and how you're relatable and diminishing your professional presence. Own the fact that you're a professional and don't weaken it. And then last one I have on this list is, definitely emphasize the impact of the work you do. And don't weaken your authority. So anyway, that's a list of ways to manage your people pleaser.
You know what I noticed
that was?
In that list is attorneys, generally speaking, don't do any of those things.
Right.
Accountants, generally speaking, do all of those things. Why is that? We've talked about this before. I would love to know the psychology behind why some people
blood.
Yeah.
A different DNA. Like, it'd be a great conversation to have with. Maybe we'll get an attorney on here. Maybe we'll get Sarah on here.
There you go.
And have that conversation with her and be like, okay, how is it that you're able to do this? And how come accountants aren't? Maybe we'll put that in the schedule for later.
Yep, that'd be a good one.
But that's not our topic today. We wanted to circle back on a conversation we had last week about value-based pricing. So just a quick recap or what you missed in last episode. Isn't that what they say in front of HBO? And you have to watch like 5 minutes of last week's episode before you can watch this week's.
Yeah.
So here's what happened on the last episode of the Practicing Accountant podcast. We talked about value-based pricing. We talked about a little bit of the history about Ron Baker being a big advocate for it in the industry, but also Alan Weiss being a big proponent more generally in professional services, and the importance of understanding the value that you're providing your client. And we actually came up with a formula to calculate value-based pricing, which in our podcast last week, we defined as the value-based price equals the benefit delivered, which could be you're going to save your client from penalties. You could save them time of having to do it themselves or having to pay someone else to do it besides you, or having a department to do it. It could be that they're able to sleep better at night, that you're able to help them grow profit or grow revenue, whatever it is, that's the benefit delivered. We would multiply that by a value factor, which means that the client's not going to outright pay dollar for dollar the value that they're receiving. They're going to want to expect some discount on that. So this perceived value factor would say, you know what, to get that dollar, I'll pay you 20 cents on that dollar to get that dollar.
Yep.
And so, we're going to discount that benefit. And then we're going to multiply it by or add a risk premium. So there's some risk to an accountant that they're going to be able to deliver what they say they will. So we're going to add a small little premium to it, which could be, $100 or it could be 10% or whatever it might be. And then where we kind of got muddy last week is we also said we should add a market benchmark to it. Mm-hmm. Which you pointed out didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I bullshitted my way around your question to kind of draw attention away from the fact that it didn't make sense. And so what did you and I do after we got off last week's podcast? We of course spent some more time on this and refined it. and changed it. So we did a little bit more research into how you might calculate value-based pricing, and really came to conclude that market benchmark is not a part of how you calculate value-based pricing, but instead, and more importantly, it is something that you should compare what you calculate value-based pricing to be.
Mm-hmm.
So if you determine that the value-based price of an accounting service, say bookkeeping, is $2,000 based on the money you'll save them, the headache you'll save them, the penalties you might save them, the speed in which you might get it done. And then in the marketplace, meaning your competitors or other folks around you would charge $1,000 for that same service, you compare the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
You got 2,000 here, 1,000 here. What it does is it makes you face the fact, A, that you're going to be charging more than your competitors. In fact, you might be charging more than you would normally charge if it was by the hour. So you might say, you know what, it's $1,000 because it's about 10 hours worth of work at $100 an hour, so $1,000. Well, the difference, the delta between the value-based price you calculate and that market benchmark is really the premium.
Mm-hmm.
And what is a premium? Well, first of all, it recognizes the value of what you're doing versus the time you're spending to do it. And this is what it gets interesting. What is it that you do? What premium do you offer that your competitors don't?
Yep.
What is it about you that demands a higher price than the market? And I think there's a couple of ways to answer that we would offer. And the big one is, niche.
Mm-hmm.
You are a niched professional. You are someone who is seen as an expert. You're not the general garage that takes care of any variety of vehicles that come in to be fixed. You only work on Subarus, or you only work on Mercedes, or you only work on whatever. Like, you demand a premium, not only for the value you provide, but also because you are an expert at providing the value that the client will receive. Other things might be the speed in which you provide your services, the efficiency, that you have dedicated time to them, that, each month you're going to tuck away these days, and there's a premium associated with having the guarantee of your service.
Yep.
To support that client. It might be quality. It might be the fact that you can charge a premium not only because of value and speed and efficiency and expertise, but because it's going to be a good, solid product that you're not going to have to worry about.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The your branding, your brand power, that anything that creates demand will also create pricing power, which will create that will allow you to increase that factor, that multiple we put in there.
Even just availability, right? But I think at the end of the day, I like this model that we're proposing, first of all, because it actually creates a way to calculate a value-based price. Now, does there still require some subjective estimates in it? Absolutely. But that's the best we can do.
Right.
There's no objective way to determine the value of the services unless you want to get a third-party valuation expert in here and have a type 1 or type 2 fair value assessment done on what you're trying to create. But it is going to be subjective, but we create a little bit more clarity onto what you need to be subjective about. And we point directly at those items that if with an estimate, with a great ballpark figure, you can come up with the price. And if for whatever reason your value-based price is so way off from what the market benchmark is, then there's probably a little bit too much optimism in the value that you think that you create. So that allows you to kind of adjust.
Yep.
And I think I would be hard pressed to say that you could find anyone that would say that if you charge by the hour, you would earn more than if you use value-based pricing. So it's always going to, most likely, always going to be more than you would normally charge. And your ability to explain, to talk to a prospect about why that is key here. It's key to be able to say it's $2,000. And then they say, well, that's a little steep. I just talked to Bob down the street and he said he'd do it for $1,000. Why would I pay you twice as much? I said, great. I love that you're shopping around. I love that you're having those conversations. Well, here's a list of 5 reasons why I'm charging twice as much as Bob. First of all, Bob does work on everything.
Right.
He is an expert of nothing. I've been doing work in this industry my entire career. Second of all, Bob is completely overloaded. If you can get Bob to respond to you on the phone call or actually reply to your emails, kudos to you for getting his attention. But that's something you get with me. The benefit of my work isn't just that you're going to have your books done. And I don't want you to think about it that way. You're going to have your books done in the first week of the month, which is going to allow you at least 3 weeks to make adjustments to that month, in that month, that are going to help you have a better month than you otherwise would have, which means you might be earning more, or you might have more profit, or you're going to be able to recognize the trends earlier than you normally would, which is going to create positive impact to your business.
Yep.
And after a conversation like that, first of all, the prospect's impressed, like, okay, all right, I called him on his bullshit and he had a good response. Now it's up to me as a buyer to decide whether I want this premium service or do I just want to go with Bob?
Yep. And that's the key behind it is selling the value, not the feature. Selling the outcome, not the feature. Because if you're selling bookkeeping and not the ability to run a more profitable business, then yes, people are going to price shop because bookkeeping, that service, technically is a commodity when you look at it that way. And so people will find the cheapest price.
I saw a meme the other day. You've probably seen this too. It was a picture. Do you remember? Did you ever have the old iPods?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the bricks.
Yep.
They were kind of big, or a lot bigger than they are now, I guess. Well, I love those things. I love those iPods, and I love the more storage. So I could put as many songs. I could put my entire music collection on it, or I could download anything I wanted to and dump it on there, and always have it whenever I wanted it to. But when they sold those things, they didn't tell you this has got 32 gigs of memory, and it's got all these different specs, and it's got this special thing, and it does all this stuff. The way Apple sold it is they said you can put 32,000 songs in your pocket.
Yep.
That you can listen to anytime you want to, wherever you are, no matter what you're doing. That music is always available to you.
And that's that value, not the feature. Because no one gives a shit how many megs it is or how many, RAM or whatever.
It's a feature. And they also don't talk about how they made it. They don't say, okay, so it starts and we get 2 pieces of metal, and then we put a bunch of technology shit in there, and then we slap it together, and then we seal it, and then we solder this and we solder that, and then we paint it with this special stuff. It's great paint. It's amazing paint. And then we put it down the line, and someone takes a box, and then they take it out and they put it in the box, and they close the box, and they seal the box, and then we ship it to a store.
Yep.
And then it gets in your hands. Like, who cares?
I know.
I don't care. I want 32,000 songs in my pocket.
That's right.
I want to have the peace of mind that there's no errors in my books. I want to know that I'm not going to be assessed a penalty. I want to know that I'm going to have this information available so I can make more money. I want to be able to make good decisions and influence how I'm tracking as a business. And I need someone to help me do that.
Yep. That's it. That's it.
And the other thing, I'll say this right now, and this is probably going to piss someone off if anyone hears it, but I'm tired of hearing about accountants talk about technology. Like, I love that they can come together and like meet amongst themselves and talk about it. Like, what do you use? What do you use? I use this, and I found this app, and this does this, and this does that, and this automates that, and this organizes that. Clients don't give a shit about that.
No.
They don't care how organized you are. They don't care how quick you can get a report out of the cloud and into your system. I don't care how quickly you can onboard them and what systems you have that allow them to be onboarded as quickly as you get them. Like, they don't care.
No.
Don't care. And I realize it's your business and it's your, it's how you experience what you're doing. I get that, but there's a place for that. And it's not necessarily to sell a client on the value that you bring.
Yeah. Agreed. I agree. You mentioned something about this hypothetical character named Bob down the street. He, you said he's not taking any clients. And I've heard that from like on Facebook, like the neighborhood groups that people ask for recommendations. I've seen over and over and over again people looking for CPAs or tax preparers, and because they've reached out to several and they're not taking clients. Who in their right fucking mind would not take new clients? Like, use that demand and use pricing to bring on clients. Like, I don't understand why we're not leveraging that demand for a better business, and they're trying to be everything to everybody, take on every client to the point where they can't take on a new client because they are afraid to raise prices to let the market speak. Drives me crazy.
Well, if you have clients coming to you and you're saying no, I think there's a piece of me that says, okay, let's understand that a little bit. Why are you saying no? Well, because I've got, all the work I can possibly do. Okay, great. And is all that work that you could possibly do paying you the value of the work that you're providing? No. Do you have some clients in there that you're serving this year that you're probably going to be firing next year? Yeah. So should we say no to good work that might be more ideal and might be paying a price that you actually deserve? Or at least the value of what you do is something you could charge for. Okay, well, what do you want me to do? Well, maybe you get rid of a client so you can make room for this one.
Yep.
And well, it's January. Yeah, I know it's January. Have you started working with them? Do you have an engagement letter? Have you committed to it? No, I haven't done that yet. Well, I'm not going to tell you to be a jerk, but you're also running a business and you're trying to improve your experience in public accounting. And these are the types of decisions you need to make so you can have that.
Yep. There's an interesting thing that happens to accountants, obviously, more specifically in the tax realm, where they freeze everything for tax season because they're afraid to make waves with clients. Like, I don't think we should be afraid to fire a client now that will probably go on extension anyway. Maybe file an extension and then fire them and say, here's your extension and go find someone else. Like, that's not a big deal.
There's plenty of outs, but that people pleaser, it definitely prevents them from making a good business decision or just a good decision, period. And, if you get to this point of the year and in January, the week before the official commencement of busy season or tax season, at least, if you still got clients that you'd like to fire and you haven't done it yet, well, that's something we need to fix next year.
Yep.
At the same time, just because it is a week before kickoff does not necessarily mean you still can't do some shuffling, especially if it means the difference between you having a more sustainable business that you're going to survive and thrive in this season.
Yep.
So there's still options, and that door doesn't necessarily close. But I also understand professional courtesy and integrity, and we need to uphold those things. So,
sure.
So I think, what we wanted to do today was just kind of come back to our equation. So the equation as it stands today, and I'm sure we'll finagle this a little bit.
Yep.
Benefit delivered times perceived value factor, plus or times a premium percent or dollar amount is going to calculate a value-based price for the service that you're contemplating offering. And once you have that, you're not done. You just don't go to market with that. You compare that to a market benchmark, which could be your own hours and dollars of time, or it could be what Bob's charging down the street. If you have the ability to then easily explain the premium that you're charging for that value-based service, you're in the money.
Mm-hmm.
If you are too high above what that market benchmark is, and you can't explain it, if you can't justify the value, then most likely you need to adjust some of the factors that you use to contribute to that calculation.
Yep.
And you now have the means to calculate and verify a value-based price.
That's pretty sweet.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
That's fun. I like going through that. We we'll kind of wrap up today, but something just for the listeners here, we're going to make something available here in the next week or two, that, if you visit our site and check us out at thepracticingaccountant.com, you'll have the ability to download or even calculate your own value-based price for services. So we'll say more about that when it's officially released and available. That'll be free. That's something we've talked about here and have created. That's just something that we want to put in your hands to play with and have fun with.
That's right. That'll be cool.
Yeah. So that's our episode today. And we know we probably come back to value-based pricing as we continue to refine this and offer folks, access to this. But it's just something that I think you and I and everyone in this industry has been using the language around, but has just never really truly, at least in my own limited perspective, have actually seen someone dive into and say, okay, let's calculate this.
Yep. It's if nothing else, it's a great starting point to just see what benefit you're providing. And if you can start putting together the benefits, maybe you'll be more confident about your services. And
it's a win-win.
Yep. So
yeah,
cool,
that's it for the Practicing Accountant today. Thanks everyone for watching.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug.
Cheers.